We play a lot of music and do our best to save a lot of lives. Back after a week off for Easter. I hope everybody had a wonderful Easter. All you families out there. You did your Easter egg hunts. You did the kids. You did the painted eggs. My time is over for that. But I know, I know a lot of folks is out there doing that. And actually, Easter's cool. I like Easter. I like Easter. I do. I do. I like Easter. I mean, aside from the spiritual thing, he is risen, born, all that. I love that. But I just like it because it don't cost a lot of money. I don't like holidays where I gotta spend a lot of money. You can do things for the kids, have fun, get the Easter eggs, the Easter baskets. That's kind of cool. But no, Easter, no, no, I don't know. Nobody don't like Easter, but you know.
Atheist. I'm just saying.
Did you hear what he said?
I'm just saying.
Did you hear what he injected into the Easter conversation? Sorry. It's okay, because they probably don't. They ain't even thinking about it. All right. Anyway, we're back. All right, so everybody's here. Ladies here, the soul is here, Philmo is here, Ann is here. Everybody say hi.
Hello.
What's up? What's up? What you got for us? Who want to start? What you got? Anybody got it? Oh, I gotta get it. I gotta get it going. All right. Well, I'll get it going. Let me give huge love to the Golden State Warriors.
Yes, win. I did watch
huge love. Great win.
Funny
Steph game. Without Jimmy Butler. Man, that boy is auto. That boy. If Steph had been a gunslinger back in the Old West, could nobody outdraw Steph? Because Steph can get that ball off. Man, he's amazing. He's amazing. You give him an inch. A micro, what's the micro millimeter, micro whatever? You can get that, man.
You don't need a lot of space.
He is amazing, man. He is really amazing. And for him to do, but I will say this: the Rockets can't score on nobody. They couldn't score on me, and I can't play no defense. Okay, I ain't got no score. KD need to go there, but that's neither here nor there. Right now, the Warriors are in it, getting ready to take 3-1 tomorrow, and the Lakers are down.
We're trying to take 3-1. Don't jinx us.
No, come on, man. The game is played on the court. I can't jinx nobody, And the Lakers are out. Oh. Lakers out.
Don't jinx the Lakers.
Okay, so I ain't jinx them. The game is played on the court.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, NBA playoffs, love it. It's a lot of fun. I really, it's my time of year because NBA hoops, number one thing for me. All right, and I want to congratulate, since we were not on last week, and we congratulate the new mayor of Oakland, Barbara Lee, who is now, he stepped in a special election, and I've known her for a long time. She's been around a long time, and she got her work cut out for her, though. What you think, Mike? That's your spot. How you think?
I do stay Oakland.
How you think she's gonna do?
I think she's gonna do. I mean, you gotta cut. I don't like bureaucracy, all the red tape. We gotta get to like action.
Streamline things.
Streamline action.
Yeah.
Do things that work.
Yeah.
Proven commodities.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll bring in Doge, okay?
No, come on, get out of here.
That's not people back to work.
No, if you take people out of work, then you need even worse. You need people working.
Exactly.
Right?
We need people working.
I mean, she got a big job, man. I mean, whoever it is,
Well, that's my thing. In 3 months, are people still gonna like her?
Oakland is that's true. Oakland is an awesome city.
Oh, well, when it's working right, yeah. No, look, ain't no doubt about it, man.
Yeah.
When it's popping, when it's crime is down and when almost ain't everywhere, and you got some businesses there. I mean, all of us remember that time. Man, anybody who's been around the Bay and especially lived in Oakland and been through Oakland, no, Oakland is. It was the West Coast chocolate city. That's what it was, But I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. But we know Barbara. And like I said, she got to work. But we wish her the best. We wish her the best. All right. News. Soul sent me a couple news stories. Let me see if I can find them. And first, we'll start with the death of the beloved Pope Francis. The beloved, however you want to say it, Pope Francis, the first Latin American pontiff. I'm Catholic, so I've seen a lot of popes, right? he was he was
He was
was
different.
probably the closest to the biblical kind of pope. Blessed are the poor. He was all in touch with that. And he was from he was from Latin America. He's the first Jesuit pope. Also I could say that because I happen to know that just from being Catholic, right? Being run around with Jesuits, but he had a lot of admiration for. I mean, he would be one who would walk the streets just like Jesus did. If you believe in all that. But yeah. So now it's time they go bang. They're going in looking for the puff of smoke. Anybody want to say anything about Pope Francis? So you got anything to say about that, or should I move on?
I think you covered it. I mean, yeah, he was well liked. He was different.
Yep.
He took some stances that other popes may not have done, and seemed to show us compassion for human beings and the human condition in a different kind of way. That's surprising. And yeah, it's always interesting to see who the new pope will be. Will it be an African pope this time? I remember that was part of the conversation last time, so I guess we'll see. But yes,
yeah, get a brother.
What do? They have to go in the thing. They got to do.
They
the
call
smoke.
the conclave out there. Boy,
Don't they got to do the?
Shows you what I know about being. They go to conclave.
Go to the thing.
Yeah, they go to the thing. Yeah, when the smoke come up, and I think is it white smoke? Lady? Black smoke.
Yeah, I think it's black smoke.
That lets them know when they
I think the different colors. It deciphers when they're done or when they started.
Yeah.
So if it changes
I
the
thought
color,
it was smoke.
I think.
What do I know?
Gotta Google it. ChatGPT. If you know, call in 877-954-61.
Oh, I need it.
They know. There's some real Catholics out there that really know.
Yeah, like me, huh? Lady, you want to help with this one? You gonna leave this one alone?
I'm leaving this one alone.
Okay. All right. The second story the soul sent me is
well,
yeah, go ahead, sir.
I sent this second one because I started off my Easter in church in Richmond, California, Bethlehem Missionary Baptist Church. Great church in Richmond. Beautiful service, by the way, on Easter Sunday. But I ended my day in the theater watching the new Ryan Coogler movie. And let me tell you, that was an Easter to remember. Wow. Starting off in church, it ended up at Sinners.
Now, seriously, man.
Sinners is quite a movie.
I don't know how you did that, man. You can't start in church. It's Sunday. At least Monday morning, at least after midnight, and you go to see Sinners with vampires on Sunday night. But you did it, man. You did it. I know
everybody gets different things out of the movie. In actuality, that movie strengthened my, what I call my belief against the fight against evil. So I was able to put it all together in one, one package. But man, what an incredible movie. Mike, did you see it yet?
You see, I might go see it tonight.
Oh, hey.
I never know.
So I'm doing. Lady E seen it. And have you seen it?
Lady E, you went?
Lady E saw it.
I didn't want that for you, but I'm glad you did.
I saw it, and I do not do nighttime.
We know.
No, I was in the movie. It was high noon, sunshine, daylight. And I was so glad. Yeah, but my son and I went. We walked down to the Kabuki. And when different things showed up, I had to say something. I had to say, now see, he said, you philosophize and I'm trying to watch the movie. But I tell you what, that philosophizing made it easy. When stuff started happening, it's like, hold on, what is going on? Anyway, so yeah.
Everybody, I get one text a day. Dr. Martin, did you see the movie yet? Then I get,
is that good?
It's pretty good, brother.
You should have already seen the movie.
Wow.
Every day, somebody's telling me they got checking, and I got every day. He's done remarkable at the box office though.
Big Von has seen. He said he's seen it twice.
Wow.
Twice?
Yeah, Big Von said I've seen it twice.
All right. He made let's see, he made
Who's he? You
14
talking about
million
Ryan Coogler? Yeah.
in his opening, and in the first weekend, and 45 million in the second week, which is what's remarkable about this is you don't get a lot of big openings for original screenplays. You know, you get remakes, you know, or series, what they call them, sequels. That's what they call them.
Yeah.
You know, like Marvel's, 50 years Marvel movie, you know, right there. But he and the backstory is the deal he made. I don't have all the details,
Oh, that's
but I
right.
read the details that he made. I mean, the deal that he made with I guess it was Warner Bros. Who was the big? I don't know who.
I think Warner Brothers. That deal's getting a lot of attention, though. He says there's plenty of other people who've gotten a similar deal too, but for some reason his is getting a lot of attention. Read into that however you want.
Yeah, people. Yeah, well, people are liking it to Prince. I'm gonna own everything. I'm gonna own this. I'm tired of this. I'm tired. Y'all take all my money. You own the masters. But but when I read, it was pretty special. People saying we could break the Hollywood studio thing, but I don't know. But
I'm gonna go on a limb on Street Soldiers right now and say Ryan Coogler was pretty good at filmmaking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
He might have something if he just keeps going. He's pretty good.
You think?
And so what were you saying? So the new duo was Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, well, this is movie number 5.
Stepped in the footsteps of Spike Lee and Denzel Washington. As they do.
I wonder if you could somehow compare the swooning and screaming of women at the height of Denzel versus the height of Michael B. Jordan.
That's a great.
Because Michael B. is getting up there. He's starting to.
Question.
Yeah. He's starting to get up there.
Michael B. a heartthrob now.
Yes.
877-955-1061.
He's a heartthrob now. Yeah, he is. When Denzel is Denzel. So yeah, it's nice to see it continue. Yeah.
It is the next gen. Ryan's to me Spike Lee. 2.0. He's the next generation, and it's cool to see the evolution. Great film. Great film. I was scared. Hey, Mike, I was scared.
Oh, what?
Mike.
You were spooked?
I mean, like I said, I don't do that kind of movie. I don't do that.
I like movies.
You like vampires?
Good. Of course I don't like vampires.
Yeah.
I don't like vampires. Warlocks either.
Just be prepared. Warlock, you don't like nothing.
That is a spoiler alert to say it was, I didn't say what it was. I won't say what it was. I think that's a part of the discovery of what it is a part of the excitement and the appreciation of the imagination and the creativity of his work. So, yeah.
All right,
lady, it was brilliant to me.
Right, we're gonna do it. All right. Keep you posted. May have to do a show on the movie Sinners and all its various interpretations. All right, tonight, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Man, we've never done this topic before, but I think it's relevant because we all living here. You interested in the environment, Mike? You interested in the environment,
yes,
the planet, climate change,
and
global warming, all of that. Well, Earth Day, we had Earth Day recently, and I knew about it, but I hadn't really been into it. And I have a passing knowledge of of what's going on with the planet. But as the more I read about it, and more I saw how big Earth Day was, I said, look, we're all here, right?
Especially for you, Doc. Back when you was a kid in the 1800s, they didn't have no Earth Day back then. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry.
Oh man, you hear my son diss me like that? Hey. All right, I'm gonna get him. It's coming back.
Hey, they didn't have Earth Day when I was a kid. What are you talking about? I'm old too.
Yes, they did. 1970.
Okay, I got the facts, but to guide us through this conversation, I got an excellent reference who is now appearing on the screen, and she will help us answer all things about the Earth.
Beautiful.
And Earth Day. We are joined by Dr. Elisa Patel, MD, who is the executive director of, and Dr. Patel, tell me if I'm wrong here, of the Medical Society Consortium on Climate and Health. Is that right?
That's
Lord.
correct. Yeah.
I got one thing right. Okay. And it's extensive biography in here. Received your undergraduate degree. Oh Lord, in biological sciences. After college, you worked in Egypt, Brazil, and India. Oh, you perfect for an international thing. On international development projects with community-based organizations focused on conservation and development efforts. And this thing is 2 pages long, so I'm going to stop and just say somebody, a family I'm very close to, recommended you, and because he's on the East Coast, and he said I can't stay up that late, but he said Dr. Patel would be glad to join us. So thank you so much. Guide us through this. I got a couple of opening conversations. Ann is so interested in Earth Day that she went to. Tell them where you went, Ann.
Ooh, I got to go to Dallas, Texas last week and visit the Earth X conference. It was a week-long conference with tons of leaders talking about what's going on in the world, what we can do about it. Some people had like inventions and business models and things like that. But it was just really important to know. Actually, it was like a big relief to know that there's like all the generations are interested in saving the earth. Yeah, it was phenomenal. One of the lead speakers on the first day there was Hap Klopp, who created North Face, and it was so cool to like learn about him and his passion to take care of the earth, make sustainable, good quality products, and also take care of his employees. And so after this big, talk, he actually had like the young people come up to him and ask questions, and he was super personable. So I think when we talk about the earth and when you talk with people who care about the earth, you just find that you see that they understand that we're all connected and then that we're in this together. So I loved it. I love Texas. Miss Estelle, I know what you mean now, but the nice weather. But we can talk about EarthX a little bit later, but it's wonderful to have you, Dr. Patel.
But this probably won't surprise you, but every year when we get a new group of kids, I ask them, what would they like to see change, or what are the significant problems in the world that they need to be worked on, and climate change and the earth comes up high, maybe in the top 5. So young people are tuned, or in tune and attuned. It seems like the adults are the ones who don't get it, or at least a small portion of the adults. So you can begin, tell us about your work. I'm always interested in how people get involved in this as a passion. So go right ahead.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I love this group already. And Texas, I grew up in Houston, so it's great in April, but go back in like June, you might change your mind.
Oh, Houston's rough. I know it gets hot out there.
Yeah. But I'm also a pediatrician. I work for Stanford Tri-Valley as a community hospitalist that's out in Pleasanton. And I love both parts of my job. As a hospitalist, I get to be in the room when babies are born, just in case they're in trouble, but usually babies have it all figured out and they don't need me. And so I get to be there on just days of absolute joy, which is wonderful. And then the other half of my job is leading this organization to get doctors, nurses, other health professionals mobilized to really spread the message that climate change, as I think everybody's been saying, yes, maybe it's a distant problem for polar bears, right? But it's a problem of us. It is profoundly affecting the health of every child being born today. And it will be the defining health, what we call the greatest driver of health for every child born today. Wow. And I think for 20 or 30 years, we've really framed it as a distant problem in a distant time and place. And I think why young people get it is because they've walked into this earth and they can already sense that this isn't normal. Whereas for those of us that have been here for a while, I think we have a hard time imagining that the things that we're talking about could actually come to be, because we've become so reliant upon our spaces. And so it's hard for us to imagine an entire landscape burned or an entire coastline that's crumbled into the sea. But these are the things that we're starting to see.
It's funny you said it about the polar bears. Every once in a while, I will see a commercial, not even, it's obviously an environmental thing, right? Of the polar bears, like something ain't right. They're wandering in places that, where's the ice, right? I'm a polar bear looking for ice, and the ice not there. And then I'll read something about, the ice caps melting and all of that. It seems to be a slow deterioration. That's not the word I want. A slow something that's moving a lot faster than people think it is. Let me begin my first question. My first question is, some of us what's the difference between climate change and what's the other one they use? Oh God, no, I can't think of it.
Global warming?
And global warming. Yeah, those two.
Yeah.
To be the same, they get pitted against each other.
Yeah, well, it's that the consortium, we are the guests who are going to have Ed May back, who I think was also born before there was Earth Day. Because he couldn't stay up until 11. We are based at a communications shop. So we spend a lot of time and effort thinking about the right words, both to get folks activated and for people to understand something really complex. And so the first thing that they tried to use to get people to understand what was happening was global warming. But they actually found when they said global warming, people were like, well, that's nice. I'd like it to be a little warmer. So that didn't seem to translate to folks that this was actually a problem. And so now, we tried climate crisis for a while to get people activated. But what we've learned about calling it that is that then people just get turned off because they're like, oh, this is a big deal and I can't do anything about it. So climate change, I would call the scientific term that we use to talk about how we have pumped so many greenhouse gases into the environment from burning coal, oil, and gas that the Earth has a fever. And that fever—
I like that. Earth has a fever. I'm right there.
Has a fever. And may he rest, the late Pope Francis said it as well. The Earth has a fever. And when any of us has a fever, we feel crummy. And the Earth feels crummy right now. And we see it in lots of ways, right? Like we've built all of human civilization on the understanding that more or less where you are, you know what to expect in that place. So if you're in Alaska, you can expect a lot of snow and cold. If you're in Texas, you can expect a lot of heat. If you're in California, you can expect some wildfires from time to time. Now, all of this is completely messed up, right? We had a hurricane on the Pacific coast. What? Yeah. We had wildfire smoke blowing down, the eastern seaboard. We have tornadoes outside of Tornado Alley happening. We are just seeing these bizarre events play out because we pumped so much of that pollution into our environment that it's not stable anymore. Yet the Earth essentially has a fever.
Anybody wants to call and ask your questions about, the climate change, you call it climate change, or the Earth, the Earth period, because, our whole thing is keeping people alive and free. We got to keep the Earth
alive.
Well, alive, right? So we'll have a place to be here. 877-955-1061. If you've got a question, a thought, a concern, you can give us a call, and I'm sure Dr. Patel can answer it. Now, the other thing I hear is people don't believe that man has contributed to this. I don't quite get that. Are they saying that because they just don't want to do nothing, or
we don't do alternative facts here?
Yeah, well, so let's get to alive and free here, because are you truly free if you are living in a community where pollution is placed upon you? And that is what we're seeing. And we're seeing so much of it under this administration, where we place our places of where we place industries of pollution. So the oil rigs, the oil refineries, our big roads, that is not accidental. That tends to happen more often in communities of color and communities that are experiencing poverty. And it happens that way because our politics expect that those communities are not going to have the political power or the resources to fight back against the siting of those kinds of facilities. So children are essentially born pre-polluted. From the beginning, they're born with poor health, and they can expect a life of poor health from all of the pollution that is placed upon them. And we are seeing that on the one hand, we are just seeing some amazing community organizing by environmental justice in frontline communities to take back their right to free air, to breathe clean air. On the other hand, we are seeing under this administration a complete discounting. It's worse than that. It's like a dismissal,
dismissal,
damping down to say that these communities don't have those rights. What we actually have a right to do is pollute where we want, how we want, because we want to make more money. And so this is deeply an issue of justice in terms of who pollutes and who has to suffer that pollution.
I remember that whole, probably the one that pops in my mind was the whole lead in the water. Where was that in Detroit?
That was in Flint, Michigan.
Yeah, that was a huge story.
Yeah, it's a related but slightly
yeah.
different situation. That was the city of Flint, Michigan has a higher percent Black American population. So it's not a community that has gotten the same resources as other communities. The municipality basically needed to save some money. So they switched the water source to a place where the water they were getting was higher in lead. And the residents found out about it from a pediatrician who was testing the children and started to notice that the children's lead rates had gone significantly, a level of lead in their blood had significantly risen. But it's the same concept. It's the idea that some communities we can pollute for the benefit of everybody, for the wealthy who don't have to sit or live without pollution.
I grew up in Los Angeles, California. And at the time I grew up, they had what they call smog alerts, right? And I'm telling you, I thought there was just a big old cloud every day in LA. I mean, you know, and literally you couldn't breathe. You know, they had these alerts, they were gone, you'd go inside. I mean, the place was just covered with this thick gray mess, right? And I remember when I came up here to go to school, it was the first time I had, you know,
like this is fog.
I saw the fog. I said, "Is that the smog?" They said, "No, this is the exact opposite, right?" But that pollution is no joke, and man, they don't get it. Is it all about the money? Is it about? I mean, they just trying to burn up the earth, or
well, they get it all right.
Oh, they know exactly what. Look, we've got the receipts. We have the documents going back decades. They have known since the 1960s and 70s with great accuracy, the fossil fuel companies, exactly what they were doing. And rather than tell the public or decision makers, hey, you know, this is good, you know, this is the energy source we have right now. But we need to be thinking about a different energy future because the earth can't sustain this. They had the chance to do that. Not only did they not do that, they hid it from the public and they lied to us. They funded all of these campaigns, getting us to think that if we recycled, then we would solve this problem, to deflect attention from them and put it on us. In the meanwhile, they poured hundreds of millions of dollars. I know I sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist right now.
No.
There's a great academic literature that goes through all of this. So they spent hundreds of millions of dollars to lobby our politicians to keep subsidizing oil, prevent a clean energy transition. And then in the 2010s, it seems like they got it, like they saw how public opinion was starting to shift. And so they started introducing these green initiatives. Guess what? They've all gone by the wayside with the Trump administration. And now they are doubling down on the opening new gas plants, opening new spaces for drilling. They have learned nothing. They have demonstrated just a crass malfeasance almost. I don't know. I know that's a legal term, but complete lack of caring for the harm that they're causing, because what they want is they want profits. And it has become clear to me, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I was a little hopeful that they were learning their lesson, but seeing their actions over the last 2 years, it's clear, at least to me, that they're not.
I was reading about some of the significant achievements that Earth Day, since it was started in, by the way, sir, 1970, and you know when you were born. So
well, well, but I wasn't on my radar. Okay, I was thinking about big wheels and Twinkies. Okay, I mean it was the 70s. I didn't. Activism wasn't there yet.
and mobilized 20 million Americans, making one of the largest civic events in U.S. history. Had some wonderful milestones. I'm looking at one of the first ones in December of 70. The Environmental Protection Agency was created to regulate pollution and protect the environment. The Clean Air Act in 1970, the Clean Water Act. See, all this stuff makes sense to me, right? It makes sense, right? You find out something's wrong, you do something about it.
Yeah.
Here's what I really like, and I don't even know if this is the Endangered Species Act, because I'm always seeing something about, I'm trying to think what the Native Americans must be thinking about how the hell we take care of the planet,
Oh, they have a lot of thoughts and a lot of wisdom that we unfortunately we do not prioritize either in how we care for this world or how we teach one another.
Well, Native people live in harmony with nature, right? They live in harmony with nature. They understood that, but these seem like civilized people, want to battle Mother Nature, and don't. Yeah, go ahead, Sol. Go ahead.
Just gonna say, from what I've seen, Earth Day, much like the Martin Luther King holiday, over time has become like a day day of service, which is really cool. It's a day to do something in your local community, maybe even in your neighborhood. And we had events like that last week in North Richmond, in Pinole, in Antioch. There was like a keep the city clean event. So I really love how that's happened. And I think it seems like more people are aware of that and are joining in those type of events every year. Did you see that too?
Yeah, because apparently it's going to come from the people. I'll get to her in a minute. I just want to read how it went global. I mean, I'm reading here, Earth Day transformed into a global event with about 200 million people participating in 141 countries. Again, highlighting issues such as clean energy and awareness. So the seems like the people get it. It seems like governments don't get it. Although you will see, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you will see governments coming together, and I think I don't know all the details, but they would sign a pact as countries together to lower greenhouse emissions by X date and so on and so forth. And so it seems to be these agreements that happen. But then some backside the agreement,
consumers, right? Like we buy fast fashion, we wear it once because someone saw it on Instagram already, and then you get rid of it. You use the plastic water bottles still, like that. We're I think people are learning how to switch it up, right? And you get your reusable bottles. You definitely donate and buy from the used clothes stores in order to help reduce some of the trash in the landfill. Being conscious about where you're driving, when you're driving, what time. Are you sitting in 2 hours worth of traffic? Because during COVID time, the air pollution went down. Now we're back in traffic, and that is being amplified again. The carpooling program went away. That was sad. And then we're looking at using the compostable products. Are you being mindful about that? It might cost a little bit more, but it is way better for the earth. Or can we just use regular forks and clean them?
But here's my question:
conscious about that stuff.
Do the people need governments to take the lead, or can we do this ourselves? Because it seems like they come to a place where this makes sense for everybody, and then somebody Jimmy's the whole thing, right? Like right now, it's the United States, right? I'm pulling out of this. What's your thought on that?
So I want to build off the prior two comments here. First, yes, it's great that Earth Day, that there's more activation, more people getting involved on that day. And is it Anne? I think you had said that what felt really good to you when you were in Texas was that you saw other people taking action and that made you feel good. Part of what we're struggling with is that although a majority of Americans are concerned about climate change, their perception that others care, they think that most other people don't care. And I think a part of the problem is that, well, great, you took that action on Earth Day. Well, what about the other 364 days of the year? Mother Earth needs tending to every day.
Yes.
And so it isn't enough to just take that action. We need to be talking about this more every single day with each other. to the point of all of these individual actions. So this is exactly what the fossil fuel companies have gotten us to think, is that it is our individual actions that have created this problem. And what we actually need, and this is to your point, is that we need policy change. We need systems change. And so I often tell people, you want to take the most powerful climate action, vote, and talk to your decision makers about how you are voting on climate change. That is far more powerful than switching to all the reusable plastic bottles or bags or anything else that you're doing on an individual level, because we need our politicians to hear us when we say we want clean air. We want a livable future for our children. We love this earth and understand that air and water and food are things that we can't take for granted. And if we keep going the way we're going, those basic things that we took for granted are so close to not being accessible to most of us.
I work in solar, right? And so you would think, right, like a lot of people want to, you know, basically, I tell people, like, if you could pay the same amount of money that you pay to PG&E, but have solar
power,
you know, would you do it? A lot of people are like, nah, I still wouldn't do it. So my point in saying that is that you would think that
they say why?
It's just it's more so a psychological thing. They kind of trust PG&E.
Right.
That's not the point. But my point is, like, going into the business, I thought a lot more people would just switch over because it's great for the environment, and a lot of people don't. They're weary to do it. Really weary to take real action.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I deal with that a lot, like that pushback.
At the same time, let me say, people, me included, myself included, people are really upset with PG&E.
Right. Yeah.
On the real, PG&E feels evil to me right now. Like, when I get my bill, it doesn't, something feels, it feels like a crime is happening. You know what I mean?
Expound on that later, but I can't.
Okay.
Because I'm selling solar, so I know all about.
It don't feel like a high bill. It feels like it feels different.
Basically, what's going on? We don't have enough energy in California.
Yeah,
we're pulling our energy from. We're supposed to be a green state, but we're getting dirty coal energy from states that will improve it, and we're pulling it all the way over from there to get it to California. So,
let me make a point about the solar, because you're right in that we're social creatures, right? We tend to do the things that we see other people doing. And so if we don't see other people doing it, we're going to be like, I don't want to be the first one to do that. Right. There was an interesting study that came out of Berkeley that when you strategically place solar on trusted buildings, so schools, churches, it sends a social signal to everybody around, to the folks in the neighborhood. And they've seen an uptake in residential solar if there are trusted buildings that are the first ones to get the solar there. So your strategy might be go to the churches, go to the schools, and see if you could get it in there first, and then you might find it a little bit easier for the residents to uptake solar. There's another organization called Solar United. United Neighbors. The idea behind the organization is they find a few folks to really do that work to get solar within the neighborhood, and then turn them into ambassadors to go talk neighbor to neighbor about how they got the solar and how great it is. Because in the end, to your point, PG&E is not trusted, but your neighbor is. And so if there are ways that we can sort of access that social capital and understand like where people get their motivations to make change, I feel optimistic that we can get it done.
It seems to me, and I get this, you know, it's funny. I'm just pessimistic about human beings. No, I am, because they never get it until it's almost. And I'm saying almost, because almost too late is just it's like too late, right? Every shooting, every mass, every this, we need to do something, and then it passes. They don't do nothing, right? It could be Sandy Hook, which was Sandy Hook. My God, if you're going to do anything about, firearms and accessibility and all that, just common sense. And every time we have one of these massive, don't make no sense hurricane or these, things happening that never happened in places before, where the heat goes to like 150, or it's freezing in California, and
or a week where the sky is orange.
The sky is orange. They don't, what do you, and they'll say they just don't get it. They just don't get it. And when I said they, I mean, the people who can actually, because you're right, legislation is one way that's going to make this, it's going to make mass change. Yeah. Setting goals, it's like, it's like your budget. You get out of debt, right? You set a goal and you get out of debt, and it's because I guess that means something to you. And I just don't see, human beings don't make any sense to me. And I don't know if it's the money thing or if it's that I'm scared to do something but and well, here's the other thing that the planet don't care how much money you got.
Right.
Right. They starting this billionaires club now in DC.
Right.
You see that, right? Don't care. You can't go down far enough in the earth, the bunker in the earth, if it starts to implode from inside. So that's what I mean by the stupid. I just think, I hate calling people names, but you can't get away from this unless Musk gonna take all y'all to Mars, but he gonna charge for that too. So I'm keep waiting for them to get some common sense. If not, it's like they treat people, the earth, like they treat people,
Damn.
Hey, somebody probably has sense until them lobbyists get them.
Right. Yes.
Which takes me to my question is about the people who are impacted, infected, and affected by the climate change and the relocation of the equipment, the oil, all of that stuff that is polluting, i.e. poisoning human beings. What monies have had to be spent to address all of the fallout from these decisions that are being made in order to make money? Yeah, I'm just wondering what.
Yeah, so often, unfortunately, in our decision making and how we craft our policy, we aren't accounting for what the health impacts of these decisions are. Right. And so it's people there paying bigger hospital bills because they've been exposed to this pollution while the fossil fuel companies get away with it. Now, there's some really interesting legislation. There's a Make Polluters Pay bill in California. Vermont just passed a Superfund bill. New York is considering one, because we should not be left to pay with how it's ravaging our bodies and our communities. And the bill is climbing higher each time for each disaster. And so the Make Polluters Pay bills basically ask the fossil fuel companies to pick up the tab. There's a great study that just came out in a very reputable science journal that can tell you by the number how much of a climate disaster, like a hurricane, for example, the damages were caused by fossil fuels. And we can use that attribution science to say, all right, y'all owe 30% of the tab. This is how much it cost, and this is how much of a problem you were, and you need to pay up.
Right.
Yeah.
Doc, can I ask a question?
Yeah, man, I'm sitting here dumbfounded because it doesn't make any sense to me. And, I try to make sense. That's my whole thing.
We should get back to your philosophical question, because I have something.
No, go ahead.
I think so. Each of us brings to this, right, like the best and the worst that we've seen of people. And I think it influences how we see the world. The worst I've seen of people has been in the hospital. But it's also been the best I've seen of people. And I agree with you, because I've been working on this issue for 20 years, and sometimes I feel like I'm screaming into the void. At the same time, in these 20 years, I have seen, just to the point I think we made early in this discussion, so many more people show up to this. To affect mass social change on an issue, you need 3% of the population to show up on the issue. 3% of the population. Yep. To create a movement on something.
Okay.
And so we can do that. We can totally do that. But what we need to do is we need to train people's attention on the cause of climate change. We've spent too much time talking about climate change like a big amorphous problem. And we need to train people's attention on what is driving it, which is our addiction to fossil fuels. And so if we can train people's attention there, well, then we can come up with all the solutions that we need to get ourselves off of fossil fuels and build like a cleaner, more beautiful, thriving, just future. But that, to me, that's what we need in this moment. And I, from everything I'm seeing, I think we're going to do it.
You know, it must be great to be in a room with people just like you who get it. I mean, it must be great because I know when I'm in a room with people like we gonna save, we gonna keep people out of jail, we gonna see people alive. Yeah. It's just so energizing. And when you're in like an Earth Day or people like that, it must make you feel great because you know what you're doing is good. Yeah. That's pure good, right? And particularly when you're talking about children, you people feel they get it for their kids and for their grandkids. But they be like, I'm gonna be out and they can figure it out. No, you can't. I've heard people say that. I'm gonna let the next generation wrestle with it. What kind of grandparent are you? Help them fix it so they won't have to deal with this. So you raised your hand while I went on that rant.
I wanted to ask you a question, Doc, and if you have an answer, that'd be great. I don't know, but I know there's a new player, a recent new player on the scene, which is, I guess, AI. And it's very shiny. It's really cool on this side. I don't know a lot, and I don't think people know about the back end and the environmental impact, but people in the know came to tell me that it's huge. I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that, because I don't think people are really thinking about that at all. And it's hard to think about the back end because the front end is so shiny.
Yeah. I mean, like we do, we all live here in the Bay Area. And so we are always in love with the next technological innovation that we think is going to save us or fix everything. And I think that's all the buzz around artificial intelligence. I do think that there are opportunities for AI to make some things better. However, we are seeing such an indiscriminate use of AI. It consumes a lot of energy. And so what we're beginning to see, Microsoft is working to reopen a nuclear power plant. We're seeing a lot of talk about opening new gas plants, getting coal plants up and running again to be able to address how energy hungry these AI centers are. And that would be very bad. To the point we were making, though, there are some really smart people working on this problem. To think about how we do AI in a more energy efficient way so we can get the benefit without all of the cost, and how we can really expand other sources of power in places so we don't have to. Gas plants take like 5 to 10 years to get online. And so it's silly to be thinking about gas plants when you can deploy something like solar so much faster.
Doc, we gotta go to break. Let's continue that discussion because that is very wonderful insight. Okay, we'll be back, everybody, and tell them where you can pick us up. Can you stick with us, Dr. Patel, for? Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Okay.
All right, we are going to continue the conversation.
Get one call in. We got a caller.
You got a call. All right.
We just get one call.
Hi. Go right ahead.
Make it quick, please.
Oh, no. My name is Michelle, and I'm calling from Richmond. And I just wondered how much the affordability of hybrid and electric cars, since California is just trying to go electric and, moving towards the goalpost of trying to do that, makes a difference. Because honestly, as much as I like to think that people do it for the earth, I think right now people are doing it because they want to save money on gas. So how much does creating affordable products actually make a difference in getting people to change their behavior?
Thank you for that, Dr. Patel.
That's a great question. I would defer to my economist colleagues there because I don't know the numbers.
I'll answer that for you on the other side. We got a commercial. We'll be right back.
We'll be back.
If she wants to answer it on the other side on the YouTube,
we'll do that.
YouTube Live at Stay Alive and Free.
All right, thanks. We'll be back.
All right, thank you.
Nice job, Dr. Patel.
Oh yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is really fun.
You say their names. I don't know their names. All right, I'll say their names. Jackie, Ariane.
That's the gentleman.
It was pretty close.
So if you want to come back now, we can come back. No, you want to break? Okay. Okay, Dr. Marshall. Sorry. He likes his break. Yeah. Just getting started.
It is getting kind of late and spooky. It's scary hours. You're good. They're playing that. I'm on another program.
Good.
My dog wanted to pop in and say hi.
Oh, pretty. It's nice to meet you. Oh.
Tell me-
How beautiful she is.
All right.
Oh.
Ready? Hour number two, alive and free. Street Soldiers Radio now on YouTube. What a wonderful first hour. I mean, really, really, what a wonderful first hour. Man, I'm all over this. I'm loving this. Earth Day was last Tuesday. Ann loved it so much she went to Dallas to go to the Earth Day. I guess it was a conference, a convention. Earth X, right? She was there. Came back, filled my ear with this, and I said, we gotta do a show. We gotta do a show on Earth Day. And guiding us through all of this is Dr. Lisa Patel, the executive director of the Medical Society Consortium on Climate and Health. And she got her degree from Stanford University. And I always have to say, my baby daughter got her degree from Stanford University. Oh, man, that girl loves Stanford. Oh, man, look, ooh, Lord, moving her in and out of there for 4 years was something. But, but she, and now she's a professor at Cal. So, but Stanford is the one on her license plate. She loves it. Everybody go to Stanford, loves Stanford. we are joined this hour by 3 young people.
I am
which is
so
wonderful.
excited
Oh my
to see all of
God.
your faces again.
So I haven't met you, so I would just attempt to say the names and you correct me. This doctorate does not mean that I can pronounce names correctly. Okay. So is that Jackfine?
Yes, it is. I'd be a little offended if you messed that up, by the way.
Yeah, I would be too, because I want my money back. Okay. Ariane Bashista?
Yeah, it's pretty close. Ariane Bashista.
That was close. Bashista? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good
Lord.
attempt.
Okay. To Jazwi Kandukuri.
Yeah, Tejasvi Kandukuri.
Awesome.
I may have to call you Candy just for a nickname, just to go and thank each of you. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the first hour, any of the first hour. It was amazing. Dr. Patel is amazing. Yes. Really, I mean, I really appreciate you. Look, I let me just say this, Doc. I appreciate anybody that cares for people. In our work at Alive and Free, which is alive, unharmed by violence, and free from incarceration, our first rule for living is that there's nothing more valuable than an individual's life. That's where we start with. That's our base, right? And I come from a world of young people, only live once, life is nothing, I don't live to be 40, all of that stuff. And we tell them, there's nothing more valuable than your life. And it's the same with this work. You're saying people matter. My one political statement I always make, I don't like politicians because I like public servants. And a public servant is somebody who wants to do something for the people and risk not being reelected for that. A politician just wants to stay in power. And we got way too many of them, so that when you have a chance to really impact lives, it doesn't happen. But that's my personal statement. And it's all my last one, Ann, all right? Unfortunately, it's not about people, it's about power, domination, control, and materialism. Yes. And when I find people who aren't like that, I'm like, y'all could run with me, because that's the people I want to be around. Why don't if you don't mind, Doc, let's find what each of them do and what they're interested in it is, and go right ahead, Jack. You jump in and tell us what is your interest in the environment, and go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm from Austin, Texas, and that is a city with a lot of trees in it. So growing up, I was always outdoors, I was always camping. And then I moved to Dallas, and that is a place with a lot less trees, a lot less nature, and I really wanted to get back to that as much as possible. So we were introduced to y'all actually at the EarthX Congress of Conferences, and we were there representing a student organization called the Society of Sustainable Business that we're officers on. And I think all of us throughout college have really found a passion for promoting that community impact, and then also promoting sustainability on like a local, a corporate, and international scale. With that, I guess I can hand it over to you, Tejasvi.
Hold on, I want trees.
All right.
So that just brings up for me, and there's got to be related, the whole Amazon rainforest, because I remember when I first heard that, right? That's a big deal. And apparently, what did they do to that, Dr. Patel? They just wipe it out, or they cut it down, or they stop raining, or what?
Yeah. So before I became a doctor, I actually worked in tropical forest conservation. So the Amazon is near and dear to my heart because I did field work there. We call the Amazon the lungs of the earth because of the amount of CO2 it takes in and then the oxygen that it releases. What we have seen is destruction of the Amazon for roads, for timber, for cattle, and that accelerated under the administration of Jair Bolsonaro. What we are worried about, there's a tipping point. The Amazon also makes a lot of its own rain from the large system that it is. There's a tipping point at which if we cut down too much of the Amazon, it can't generate its own rain anymore, and it can all just turn into savanna. There's some research going on right now to understand we might have passed that tipping point. We're not sure, but we are darn close, closer than we should be. And then that should concern all of us because it's a big sink for these greenhouse gases that are warming our planet. So there isn't just there's obviously the impact to all the people that live around there and depend upon that ecosystem, but there are also global implications for the Amazon being destroyed.
It's just, see, that's what I mean. People stupid. That's my word. I know it's not nice, but come on now. Certain things are sacred.
Yes.
Sacred. You know, the earth is sacred, right?
Yeah.
You know, I
It
mean,
is a major source of the Earth's biodiversity. And definitely, like, from a corporate social responsibility perspective, it needs to be protected. We were actually talking to people at the EarthX conference that we were at, and one of them was talking about the fact that corporations often seem like these very shady places where people sit in, a cigar-filled room and plot about how we can destroy the Amazon rainforest and how we can destroy rainforests in Southeast Asia at a faster and faster rate to grow things like palm oil. And it was really interesting to hear, though, this guy is a climate activist and he goes out to these places, goes out to these companies that are major destructors of these environments, and has talks with them and really stresses the importance of maintaining the Earth's stability. So this isn't an Amazon rainforest example, but in Southeast Asia, there are like very delicate tropical ecosystems, and they're being destroyed for palm oil. And just through a chat where this guy was able to use, his activist mind and talk to a CEO who's one of the biggest agriculture producers in Asia, he was able to convince them to implement a new system for palm oil production that reduced the rate of tropical forest deconstruction by 90%. So
wow.
there's a lot to do there. And definitely talking to these people like they're humans and having real conversations is one of the most important things that we can do as activists.
So you always, what I tell my young people, you got to be in the room. You got to be in the room. You got to be in the room. You got to go in and state your facts. And then, let it fall, whatever. That is marvelous to hear. He put his cigar down long enough to actually listen.
He put the cigar down, yeah.
It's fabulous. Oh, wow. Now that hardens me. That makes me feel good. He needs to go be young again, because if he ever felt that way, he lost it when he got old and started smoking cigars. Okay. Thank you. That is wonderful news. Ariane, go ahead and talk about your passion.
For sure. I think it kind of transcends, or I guess goes back all the way down to childhood. So I think just intrinsically watching my family, how they interacted with the environment, with the world, starting from a waste perspective, making sure like our family, I think it could be like a very Asian thing, but like minimize our waste. Let's maybe use a quarter or a half of a paper towel in front of it instead of a whole one. And then that kind of transcended into like seeing how others interact with the environment. And I remember learning in school this statistic about plastic decomposition rates and how like it takes hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years for plastic to decompose into where it's like basically nothing anymore. And then I would think to myself, like, my lunch alone, I bring like a bag of chips, I bring like crackers. You add that up within a specific like week, that's a lot of plastic. And then I looked around the room, that's a lot of plastic there. So I think just like from very early on, I was thinking about a lot of like the waste production. I was thinking about like how sustainable things are. I don't think I understood like those concepts that early on, like sustainability and like decomposition, but I definitely had that mindset. And I think there were two triggers that really exemplified, or not exemplified, but exacerbated my a passion for sustainability. So in high school, I was actively involved in a lot of like community cleanups. I started up later a Red Cross chapter with a couple of my colleagues that focused on disaster relief for veterans in like the Gulf Coast region. So like social sustainability, environmental sustainability were really core tenets in a lot of my activities in high school. And in college, I don't think this has been discussed, but all of us are within like the business realm. So business, I think, is very intrinsically focused on production without the concept of like end of life use, or like you don't really think about like before, during, or after. You just think about like more of the profit loss. You think of like actual resource usage rather than the impact that it has. So there's this organization that we run, the Society of Sustainable Business, that kind of works at the intersection of like sustainability and business. So projects we work on like international and local scale focus on both of those like ideas. Like a core tenet of our operations is the concept of impact. So like locally, working within the community, reforestation of Dallas, Texas was a very big initiative that we're working on with nonprofits. And then I think just all those activities, and then EarthX was another really big trigger of mine, that unlocked the concept of like systems thinking and seeing how large scale frameworks are needed to address such detrimental concerns, like multilateralism, the use of like the public sector and private sector, how those two need to work together to actually drive meaningful change without infighting. Like a lot of that stuff really opened my eyes on how crucial it is. And I don't know, I'm just really inspired over the past couple of years.
There's hope, right?
Yeah.
Well, I want to change. See, I want to change. I'm saying because when I was a kid, there was a lot of revolutionaries now, and they aren't all big time bankers. Okay, they don't even care about the revolution. I mean, seriously, I'm still the one, right? Just like you were when you were in college. That's right. You know, that's what I do. That's my life. Don't change. I got to ask you, do young people get this more than just in the adults? Just from what you are seeing, I mean, I see, and I don't mean this. I do mean this. I see a lot of adults who lose their way. I don't know what happens to them. They start off as not even idealists, but they start off as these, you know. I mean, let me give you a different example. There's a lot of people who join the police force for a certain reason, specifically because they want to do stuff around making it safe for the community. You know, 10 years later, they're on the bad cops list. Right? Something happens, right? But do you see this being a passion of young people, a big concern about young people, and can they sustain it as they move into, I got a family, I'll make some money, get elected, and just your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a multitude of reasons. I think I was having discussions with like nonprofit owners and people that were at EarthX and people who were really inspired by our motivation. And one thing they always said is like, you still have that spark, don't lose that spark. I think there's a lot of factors that play into like why maybe inherent or intrinsic motivation dies down as you kind of progress through life. Like there's an ease factor, there's a lot more things you have to take care of. Like you have to sustain your own family, you have to sustain your own self. And then there's like the concept of ease and comfortability, and how like, oh, these systems are set in place. I don't have to think a lot about them. It benefits me in a specific way. All right, that's fine. Maybe let's put this off the shelf and I'll look back at it later. And that I think adds up over time. So I do think it is a multitude of reasons. It is kind of, I guess, the downside of how well the systems are set in place of like, oh, these fossil fuels are so efficient. All the systems are backed by them. We've learned how to optimize the system so well. Let's just not think about alternatives, or like, let's figure out like
not think about the damage that it's doing. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's an ease factor that comes into play. There's a factor of like, I think Digisuite mentioned it earlier before we were joining the call, but it was like the shifting baseline. Digisuite, I'd love if you like went into that.
Yeah, so the shifting baseline syndrome, just to go over like a high level overview of what it is what we see in like our society today, like when it comes to like nature, like the oceans, forests, what we see as like what's happening right now is what we see as normal. Like for example, 100 years ago, it was completely different. Like the oceans were more like filled with biodiversity. Like corals were like much more colorful. And right now, like we just see like white corals, and that's normal for us. So I feel like every year and like every like a couple of like decades, it just gets worse and worse, but we see it as normal. So there's just kind of like a constant like need to kind of like get back to where we were. It's hard for us to kind of like go back to where we were when we didn't see it in the first place. So I think that's just kind of like, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to build off of what you were both, and by the way, y'all are all awesome. Like the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
And one of the things, Aryan, that you were saying about that companies are often not thinking, we call them externalities, right? That companies don't have to worry about the pollution, and to the point of plastics. Here's a fun fact: we all have a teaspoon worth of plastic in our brains. Babies are being born now then there's plastic in their first poo. Plastic is everywhere, so it doesn't actually break down. There's a paleontologist who talks about, like if you go to, you can see like the layers of rocks through different eras of time, our era will be called the plastic scene because there will be a layer of plastic that will define us as a human civilization. And so how do we, to the point that you're making, and I applaud the work that you're bringing and the energy and the sense of moral compass, is to say that even though society isn't charging us for these costs, somebody is paying the price. And so how do we act in a responsible way so that nobody else is paying the price for our profit? So I really applaud the work that y'all are doing.
I just had twin grandchildren. And you told me that they are born with plastic, and Mariah and Maxwell were born with plastic in their brain. Oh no! I better go over there tonight. No, but that's. I'm glad you said that. I did. You know, you see these pictures of the ocean, you know, and the fish laying on the, you know, and somebody clean up all the plastic. Yeah. That those points. Oh God, make all of those points. To Joswy, I think I said that right. Talk about how you got involved in this. What's your background? And because you just jumped right in, but we didn't get that part.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think a core value of mine has always been to give back to my community. And I've always done so by like volunteering in high school, and I kind of like got into like volunteering in college. And one of like my first involvements in college was with an environmental conservation organization called the Galveston Bay Foundation. And essentially it was a week-long trip. It was over spring break, and peers who were also very interested in sustainability were paired together, and we drove down to Galveston to kind of help this nonprofit just like do oyster shell restoration, like clean up like microplastics from the beach. And I think like doing that and like seeing how much microplastics we have in the ocean like really terrified me, and it kind of sparked a thought of like I really want to give back to my community in a sustainable way to like make our world a better place. But essentially what scared me is whenever I was just like holding like, you know, just like a handful of sand, I would just like see microplastics in my hand, and I could maybe count like 15 pieces just within my hand. So that was like a really crazy statistic. And then I got into volunteering for more environmental conservation organizations across the country. And I run my own research paper. I love fashion, so I kind of got into the unsustainable part of it and trying to make it more sustainable by tackling the business model of what makes sense sustainable, which is resource and labor exploitation. Got into that. And of course, I joined the Society of Sustainable Business in my senior year with Jack and Aryan, and I've been able to make more of an impact in my community and internationally. And one of the projects I'm working on within SSB is for a nonprofit in Africa called Equip Mozambique, where we're helping revamp their business model. So kind of just like trying to find a way to give back to my community all around. And I think I just want to keep continuing that spark I have for sustainability.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. What's it like doing the international work? I mean, I just, that's a big part, you know, when I get to go to, look, one thing I found out, everybody wants to stay alive and free. Okay. Nobody likes the violence. I don't care what the government says. When I'm talking to, you know, kids in Nigeria, and I'm in Thailand, or I'm in South Africa, or I'm in Botswana, or I'm in Montreal, Canada, they'd be like, no, we want to live, right? And so there's this common thing immediately, because we're really into the same thing, you know, and even the language is the same, you know, I mean, when we get to talking. What's it like doing the meeting people from all of these places? That must be just like, yeah, everybody gets it. Again, the governments don't get it, but the people get it. For each of you, Doc, you too, what's that like? Anybody answer? Don't wait for me.
Wait, I just want to say one more. Sorry, I'm like such a factor. Last thing I want to say about plastics. Guess where the plastics come from? Petrochemicals. So there's a common thread here, and the fossil fuel industry is really leaning into plastics as their 2.0 when we've transitioned off of coal, oil, and gas. And so you will see tons of misinformation from the fossil fuel industry about the fact that we can recycle plastics. The majority of them we can't, for example. So we should really aim
the majority of plastics we can't recycle.
the majority correct. We have no efficient way of recycling a majority of plastic. So
well, that's a hoax when we throw our stuff in there to the we can't really
like they have the
recycle.
symbol, but that doesn't really mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything. So what we should do, there are some uses for plastic where we don't have great alternatives, but right now we just use plastics for everything. So we need to figure out like, okay, where do we really need this? Because we don't have a great alternative. And where do we need to go back? Go retro, right? Like go back to like glass bottles and metal, you know, and all of these other materials that we used to use.
Yeah. And
to the point of what it's like to work in other places. I worked in global health before I shifted to working exclusively here, and it was a conscious decision. I had my kids. We withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord in 2017, and I made a decision then. I thought to myself, well, if we can't get it right in this country, who am I to go tell anybody else like what it is they should be doing? But the second thing that I began to understand that I didn't see clearly before is that the communities here, our maternal morbidity rates, particularly when you look at Black mothers, it is embarrassing. It is not right. There is so much important work to be done here. I decided that the place that I could be the most powerful in terms of improving health outcomes would be here. But when I worked in other places, what I really appreciated about that was I love language. And what I find really fun is when there's a word for something in another language that we don't have. And often you can tell a lot about a culture, about what's important to them, for where they attach their vocabulary, where we don't tend to have it. That's part of what I've really loved about living in different countries.
Each of you, your thoughts about the international work, or if you've been exposed to that. I mean, go ahead, huh? Yes, go right ahead.
So I think that when it comes to international work, especially for the project I'm working on currently, I think it's really cool working with people across the world, obviously, because you learn so much about their culture, like their customs that you're not used to. And the nonprofit leader actually was from America. And I think it's so cool that he was able to integrate internationally into a different country for the purpose of this project. And that's inspiring because it just shows that like there isn't a specific place that you need to be in order to pursue something impactful. Like for example, if I want to move across the country, like I can do that and like still pursue it. I don't have to be in the US to like pursue like a meaningful pursuit. So I think learning from like people across the world is really important for me because it like changes my like global perspective and understanding. Yeah, and it's so cool because also like the people I work with, they speak around like maybe like 14 languages or something similar to that. So really inspiring all across the board.
Yeah, I can add to that. So growing up in the United States, what sustainability means or meant to me for most of my life was don't cut down our trees and don't produce as much carbon. If you look at what the UN classifies as sustainability, they have 17 separate sustainable development goals. And from a very privileged United States citizen perspective, you look at some of these and you're curious the implications that they have in sustainability. But I was actually able to do a school trip to Rwanda and talk with people who are facing a lot of these sort of sustainability related challenges. And one of the businesses we toured and talked to when we were there was a company that addresses the issue of people burning wood and inhaling a lot of smoke and getting that in their lungs and having that damage them by creating sort of a pressure cooker that takes wood and then uses it to burn as wood gas. So from a sustainability perspective, in terms of carbon outputs, it burns, I think, like 10 times cleaner. But what's really inspiring and what people care about and what actually changes lives in Rwanda is the fact that as people are cooking, as mothers are bending over the stove for hours, they're not breathing in wood smoke.
Yeah.
They're out here, cooking over wood gas, which doesn't have that same effect on their lungs. And then that's where we see, why all aspects of sustainability are more important. We can affect change and we can reduce carbon, and that has a very long-term, meaningful effect. But if we can find innovative measures that help people right here and right now, then that's fantastic.
Wow. Wonderful to hear.
It definitely takes traveling to sort of understand that, because in America, we're very privileged and we can solve all of our problems with just whatever existing solutions we have. But for the most part.
Yeah, I'd love to add on that as well, and kind of go back to Lisa's point of like the, I guess, implication of different languages and how like that showcases like different viewpoints on how the world works in different cultures. I thought that was really interesting. I actually like went down that rabbit hole a while ago, and it's like how like more Eastern cultures and languages, they view time, they view like the world in a very different way. You look at like English and you look at more of the Western, is a lot more pragmatic and business oriented, a lot more linear. And I think that plays a lot into like how the culture works of like your interactions with the environment, what you value in terms of a business sense. And like I think from an international perspective, what Jack was saying as well is that from an American perspective, I was born in America. Fortunate enough to say, I will say that's a very fortunate thing to say. Like I was born in America. My family came over here. I was able to grow up in a pretty, I would say, good neighborhood throughout my entire life. And one thing you notice when interacting with people international, or you see those kind of research papers that are based in those specific areas, is that their view of the world, the problems they face are so vastly different, and the frameworks that they approach on how systems work and how a problem must be solved are completely different. There's the concept in America, it's like, okay, I throw this trash, the trash goes away. In other countries, they throw the trash stays there, and then countries send trash to their countries and their shores. And they have to revolve their solutions, they have to revolve their entire mindset, their businesses, their entire education around those kinds of conditions. And it's just really interesting to see, like, on a global perspective, how those like communities, how like their local scale, the state of their actual environment on their like just their like specific perimeter impacts their way of thinking on such a fundamental level. And going back to like our specific international project, working with, his name is John, he's the founder of Equip Mozambique. It's kind of an inspiring story. He started out his, I would say his life as in Africa as a missionary doing missions with his wife. And what he found is that his work was not driving the specific impact that he wanted to drive. So he went back to America, pursued his MBA, and then founded Equip Mozambique, which is kind of a project incubator and resource center. So they provide resources to Mozambicans in order to kind of uplift their lives in various ways. They have 6 applications that work on like different aspects on like agriculture, doctor, like medical, they work on legal advocacy. It's just interesting to see like what people value in terms of the solution, what people value in terms of what to address first. I think that's like something you really gain when speaking with international, I'll say, clients, and just like interacting with those communities.
I know for me, anytime I go, the first thing is they're just shocked to find out that, you know, somebody from America even cares. You know, I mean, really, that might be funny to say, you know, and I'm a Black American, right? I go over there, you know, like you know, yeah, you know, I get all the questions about America and this and so. It ain't got nothing to do with nothing, okay? So just I always say, Dr. Patel, for me, you know, the thing we have in common is we all sit down, we share a meal, right? You know, and everybody cares about their families. And you know, there's not all the politics, all that goes out the window, all that other stuff, you know. And you can Doctors Without Borders is probably my greatest, you know, thought about. They're just there for the people, and people can sense that in you quick. They can sense that attitude very, very quickly. And it's I just love that because I remember when I started there and people said, well, you know, you live in San Francisco, so you should just be helping people in San Francisco. I said, what the hell? I got to do anything. People everywhere need to be helped, right? And that the tribalism that we have, all that other stuff gets in the way of helping people. And I don't know, you know, much we can do about it because that's the way it's set up. But as an individual, there's a lot you can do about it. Because people don't care about that. Really, that's what I found. They don't care about none of that. You know, they don't care about Trump. They don't care about this. They don't care about that. They care about you as an individual doing stuff. So much for me is like, do you have to go home? Well, yeah, I got to go home, but you know, we're still in touch.
Well, what was so nice about this conference is that they did have a lot of like different international guests, and that Monday, it was actually like North Texas Day. So all of the students in North Texas were able to attend this conference that was pricey for free, and then
Oh, wonderful.
interact and learn. And then Dallas was there representing all the different government organizations. But I also wanted to highlight, because they saw the presentation with Paul Nyson from EV Charge for You, the gentleman in the orange pants. And he's from the Netherlands, and he shared this story up on stage where he grew up with acid rain. His brother had asthma, so they would have to go to Switzerland on vacations because the air was bad. So when he came to America, he just saw, we had nice clean air, but he also understood kind of like the power of the electric vehicle, and that really sparked his kind of passion for installing the EV charging stations within homes and businesses, things like that. But not because one, it makes money, but two, the impact of the electric vehicle is so important. And then there's, you have your fully electric vehicle, but then you can do your hybrid, and kind of coming to the point that anything's going to be better than these gas vehicles. So I just wanted to share that about him, which I just thought was really interesting. And then all these people would come up to him after the presentation to share, like, I have an EV. So, California is one thing, but we're not just the green ones, it's all over the place. And like when you look at these kind of like the maps of where EV charging stations are, it's all over the United States. So I just thought that was really impressive, seeing it in Texas, but also seeing it across the world. And another thing I thought that was interesting, if we go back to Malcolm's question about AI, and I just think a lot of people don't understand how much energy is used, energy and water, and how much heat the AI produces when just asking a question. And at this conference, they were talking about how they're putting these centers, or what is it? I don't know what they're called, the machines into the water to help cool it down. And I was like, wait a minute, is that going to be good for the fish? But yeah, so
man's gonna mess up anything that can be used for good.
There's so much to be learned from that conference. And
we did it with social media, right? Oh my God,
I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, all of this. This is all wonderful. This is all fascinating. This is all needed. There's enough room in this saving the earth.
Our earth. We're in this together.
Earth, right. Our earth. That just pick one thing, and there's a lot to do, right? There's a lot to do. And Jack, you were talking about, I know what I'm good at. I'm a direct service person. I don't do legislation, I don't do policy. I ain't going in there. I'll go in there and you won't like what I have to say anyways, because I'm not gonna come up with the laws for you, right? But there are people who are good at that. There's some people who are good at playing point guard, or some people playing center, or center field, left field, right field. But we all have the same objective, right? And this is gonna be, it's a heavy lift. And just to meet folks like you who like, no, we gotta take care of the planet.
Yes.
Seriously, we gotta take care of the planet.
Wait, Dr. Marshall, I failed then. I failed. If I can't get you to talk to your decision makers, tell your stories, that's how you become part of the 3%.
Well, I'm not going, tell it this way and don't, no, I'm going to tell you like this, I'm telling right now. That's the way I tell it. And I've done that before, right? And what they've asked me to do, what I mean is they asked me to come up with the policy form, right? Well, I'm not a policy person. I will tell you what works.
Yeah.
I will tell you what I've seen work. Now that I don't have an issue with that. I can definitely tell you, and then you can do what you think is with it. But yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
But tell your
I've been in Congress before. I've spoken before subcommittees. I'm doing that. I've done all of that. And then I would say, y'all ain't serious like I am. That's what I will say, But no, my point is all of us have a role to play. Absolutely. If we want that to happen, I'm just, if we want that to happen. And I just admire all of you. I really do.
Yeah.
This thing is, it's Earth, right? I mean, like I said, what would native
Mother
tribes be
Earth.
thinking about this? What would be the Dogon people who, could see the earth with the stars, see the stars with their naked eye, back then and had such a reverence. I don't even use the word respect, I hate that word. Have a reverence for the earth and lived in harmony with the earth. And I guess industrialization was the one that changed all that. We thought we could outthink things that, and he had a spirituality with the earth, with the planet. They're just not. But thank you so much. Anything you want to get in and add? And I have the impossible question, Dr. Patel. All right. This is my faithful listener. He asked questions that I don't dare ask.
Okay.
How can we tell the rest of the world that we American citizens still care when our atrocious government pulls out of climate accords and agreements and make us look so selfish? I'm glad you didn't ask me that question because I ain't got no answer for that.
Well, and I think this gets back to the first half of our conversation, right? The federal government feels impossible right now, but there is so much we can do on a local and state level to show our commitment to climate change. And so go to your local town hall meetings, or go to your school board, in your churches. That there are things that you can do to start organizing around with the people that you already identify with for the things that you care about. So whether it's more access to sustainable food, and moving away from meat towards more plant-based choices, whether it's advocating for bike lanes, whether it's advocating for more green spaces, whether it's trying to come up with building codes so that we can electrify and get off of fossil gas, more electric charging stations, more subsidies for low-income folks to be able to make that switch to electric. There are so many things that we can do on a local and state level that's not out of play. So I would say focus on your community and get it done there, because people are elevating those stories right now so that we can say to the world, our federal government is crazy and has gone up some deep end that none of us frankly voted for, right? We didn't vote for any of this. But we can still do things and we can still show our caring on a local and state level.
Those stories of your concern for children, your concern for maternal health, those are to light a fire under people. A lot of fire to people who care about that, and that's why these conversations are very important. We're so glad to be able to do this.
Yes.
Because keeping people alive and free don't mean nothing, but I can't keep the earth alive. I saw somebody wanted to say something. Ariane, was that you? I saw you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think me and Jack both wanted. I think Jack, you can start.
All right, so definitely to your point, we talked earlier about the youngest voices kind of being the loudest in the sustainability conversation. I think a lot of what happens sometimes is people get older, they start their corporate job, they get swept under the rug, and then they just get busy with life. And people will either say, all right, I want to be sustainable, I want to live in the forest and have my own little log cabin somewhere, and they'll go do that. They'll either get very involved in some nonprofit, or the most common route is they'll just like forget about sustainability as a whole. So really what we want to promote with SSB is the fact that you don't have to start a nonprofit, you don't have to start an NGO, you don't have to be living out in the forest, completely 100% carbon neutral to be an advocate for sustainability. The power of people making small but tactical commitments, again, on a very local state level, and it's a subtle act of resilience against a federal government that doesn't really support the interest of the world.
Thank you. Ariane?
Yeah, I think Jack kind of said a wonderful piece right there. And I think what I had to say kind of adds on to both Jack and Lisa. But the nonprofit we work with, one of their taglines or one of their core tenets is like drive or make global impact from a local scale. So work local, impact global. And I think like just as human beings, as an individual, it's very hard, almost near impossible, to create such a global impact within your lifetime that you will have to resort to working within a local scale, working within your specific perimeter, your environment. Like Lisa said, your local government, working with those school boards as well. I just wanted to include like the concept of like local impact serves a global change. I thought that was really powerful.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Last words from you, Jasmine?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Jack and Arian also said amazing things about making an impact on a local scale. But I think one thing that when it comes to sustainability that we're just like afraid of is we don't know where to start because also maybe we're afraid to start. And I think the biggest thing is not being afraid to start because you'll fail, but knowing that it's like failure is inevitable, inevitable, and just like starting whenever you can and just like learning from your mistakes along the way is the best thing that you can do because a lot of people don't really know too much on how to make an impact sustainably. So just like getting started and then like finding your way into making an impact on a local scale.
Can I say one very last thing to build off of that? If you're constantly succeeding, you are not choosing big enough battles. So to your point, let yourself fail because it means that you're dreaming big.
Lady,
like that.
You have been listening as you all do, as you always do, and this has been fascinating. We've never done this before for a full show. We've talked about it, but this is wonderful. This is wonderful. I got to have some place for these folks to live, but I'm trying to keep alive and free. So, your thoughts?
Dr. Marshall, sometimes I take notes, and then there are times that I just have to be present, fully present, and really listen. And so tonight I have been fully present and listening. And unfortunately, I didn't take notes. And so some of the things that I heard that really stuck with me is the last thing Tahashi said. Can you say that again for us?
Yeah, so like in summary, what I mentioned was just getting started and not really being bogged down by fear of failure, but rather like learning along the way and finding your way into making a sustainable impact, regardless of whether you start that way or not.
Get started and then do it. One of the things that I think, and Jack, you talked about when you get older, you just kind of get busy into your life and then your career, and then beyond that, it's grandkids, and then we remember what's happening to the climate and the impact that's having on the world that we have comfortably lived in and dealt with, and the unknowns and awe. And Dr. Patel, the things that you shared, all of you have said so many amazing, powerful things. So where do you start? Sometimes you just have to say, did you know that? Did you know that? Are you aware that? Did you have any idea that? What's happening in the rainforest and what it could do? Did you know that? Are you aware of that? Did you have any idea that? Sometimes that is enough to get people awake, connected, and aware so that they can, what did you say, Dr. Patel? Vote. Be present, Jack, instead of just comfortably getting older and then it hitting us all of a sudden, wondering what are our grandchildren going to do? I am reminded of something, I'm so biblical, and the child shall lead them. The energy and the focus and the power of young people in your voices. Thank you for that. Thank you for your passion, for your awareness, for your focus. And Dr. Patel, thank you for your awareness, your presence, your voice, for your voices, for the importance of this work. It is critical. And so thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for keeping us informed. Thank you for your passion. And then hold on to that because it's necessary. It is necessary. And the more your voices come out, the more others will hear and catch on. Even if it's just a, did you know that? Are you aware of? Oh my goodness. Do you know that if we, then this? If we don't stop this, then this? If we vote for this, then this? Sometimes that's all it takes, at least for those who are now silver. And then for those of you who are young, keep leading the way. And for those who know the way and still have the strength and power and wisdom and intelligence to be the guide, Dr. Patel, be that guide, because it's important and we need it. Thank you for your time and your passion.
Thank all of you so much. That is, I call her Amazing Grace, just for you know that. That's my name for Lady Estelle. Thank you so much. And thanks for helping me put this together. Thanks for finding them, because I only found Doc.
They're amazing.
And we're going to stay in touch, okay? Earth Day comes once a year. We'll revisit this. You know, we'll see how we are looking next year. And keep it going, because the Earth is worth it. Yeah. We're worth it.
And we are worth it. And you're worth it.
So much from wherever you are. Get some rest and get back at it in the morning, okay? All right.
Good night,
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Guys.